Hey y'all, it's Melissa at Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. We're going to take a look at the meat birds, the Cornish Ruck Cross meat chickens. They are 26 days old. We have 124 here. So if you have any questions about, about meat birds, about raising meat birds, especially like these, the Cornish Ruck Cross meat chickens, put it in the comments, and we do try to reply to every comment that we get notifications on, but the comments often give us ideas for what we should talk about or cover or mention in the videos that we make of the birds. So as I said, these birds are 26 days old. So really, we only have about 11 more days of production with these birds. We are raising them to 37 days. And they will finish. They grow rapidly, and they continue to grow more and more rapidly as they go more into production. Really, with meat birds, if you're setting out to raise them in a commercial venture, we always hear the phrase profitability stops after 8 weeks of age with raising meat birds, which basically just means, we interpret that at that point their rate of growth kind of plateaus out, kind of evens out. So at that point, what they're eating is not contributing to the rapid growth that they've had up to that point. So when that growth plateau kind of hits, then they're still continuing to eat as much as they ate previously or more, because one thing about them is they do have a significant appetite. You could even call it voracious. And as they continue to get older here in production, even like in our model, we're only going to 37 days, so basically 5 weeks. We see a big appetite then, but when you push out past that 5 weeks and you get these birds like 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old, this particular variety of bird, Cornish Ruck Cross meat chickens, their appetite increases too as the growth rate increases. So basically, that's what that phrase about, the profitability is basically maxed out by 8 weeks of age with these birds, because they are going to kind of plateau out on the growth rate, but their appetite is going to continue to be excessive, and they're going to be eating more than what they're putting on is going to be able to profit you if you're selling the meat. So we really don't worry much about that phrase or that point, because we don't go to 8 weeks. We're not even going to consider going to 8 weeks, so we're definitely not going to go beyond 8 weeks. We have previously raised them to 6 weeks of age. We aimed for 42 days, but this year we are aiming for 35 days. So will we have a smaller bird at 5 weeks than we would have had at 7 or 8 weeks? Yes, we will. But on the other hand, are we going to attain the size that we want to attain in that 5 weeks time? Yes, we will. So we decided that we've raised them in a 6-week model, and we know that process, and we want to see the finished product be slightly smaller than what we were getting from the 6-week production schedule, and that's why we changed to a 5-week production schedule. Basically, what it comes down to is we're trying to end production, so that I'm talking about after the birds have gone to the processor and been processed into poultry, and we get our chicken back from the processor, and at that point we're filling orders for chicken, for on-farm pickup, for direct marketing to clients that want farm raised chicken from a small operation. So what we're trying to end up with is about a 4.5 pound chicken. So what we found, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I think this is where I was at on it. What we found with the 6-week production model is that we could end up with about a 6 pound finished bird, and that's what I was saying. The end product, what we get back from the processor, we were ending up with almost 6 pound whole chickens. And what we were finding for the specifics of our operation and our client requests is that most of them were preferring a whole chicken. When we have the whole chickens, most of them were preferring a bird around 4 to 4.5 pounds. So when we were ending up with a 6 pound chicken, it was really bigger than what our clients wanted. So we reasoned that surely if we just shorten up the production schedule, we can impact the size of bird that we're ending up with. So that's why we went to like a 5-week production schedule. And so far we're pleased with it. We have not made whole chickens out of that schedule yet, but we had a flock just prior to this one that about the same size, that we had made entirely into chicken breast, ground chicken patties, and wings. So the chicken breast, of course, comes from the chicken breast. The ground patties for us comes from the drumsticks and thighs, and the wings, of course, are just the wings. So so in that flock, previous to this one, all of the packages of chicken breast were around 1 1/4 to 1.5 pound, and that's comparable to where they usually are. Some of them were more than that, but I'd say that was the norm in that flock. So that's comparable to where we want to have that size. And also, we kind of had a reference on how much meat it produced in the chicken patties. We ended up with more packages of chicken patties than our estimate had predicted. So that's good. That indicated that there was ample meat production in the thighs and drumsticks. So the 37-day production schedule really didn't hurt with that first flock. And then this flock, same length, 37 days. We're now at 26 days old, okay? But they're going to go to 37. So this flock has actually, so far, had a better production. We just have a better quantity, for one thing, of birds that are still living. We started out with 126 in this group. We have 124. So in the last group, I think we end up losing 10 according to the start number and finish number. And so in this group so far, we've lost 2 to failure to thrive early, like in the first week, and then we still have the 124. So we're now approaching that 4-week mark. So if we're going to see heart distress that was initiated because of chill stress when they were hatchlings, we're approaching that point where we'd see it. But hopefully, I hope we don't see it. I hope that we're pretty much where we're going to be at on numbers with this flock. So they are, like I said, 124 of them, 26 days old. So let me tell you a little kind of, I guess, sneak peek of what we're thinking we're going to do. We've been putting pine shavings in here, and we've been taking a plastic pitchfork and sliding the tines under the shavings and turning them over. We've done that a couple days in a row. Let's see if I can get closer to these. There was one preening. It's now setting up. And there was one sleeping. So anyway, but we've been turning the bedding over in here, and we've been able to be really economical with the bedding in here, but we've about maxed out the absorbency of the bedding that is actually down in here and would need to be putting more bedding down. But I am thinking that we are going to actually make a little bit of a shift and let these birds all kind of move over to this side of the building, because we're reaching a threshold with temperature where we aren't needing to use the heat lamps around the clock. So if we can keep them off and they don't need them, we won't even have to reposition heat lamps over here. But over here, we haven't had any birds on this bedding, well, for about 4 weeks. So this bedding has sat. Anything that could be a pathogen issue in it would have neutralized, and we actually could let these birds go over here and have this fresh bedding, and that would complete their production length. So we could just take these crates, or just sat here temporarily to create a temporary barrier wall. We could just remove them, and we'd have to back the mower out, remove them, and we would end up moving the birds' feeders and waters. And as those resources shifted, those birds would want to go where those resources were, and we would just gently and calmly kind of drive them or herd them over to the other side of the building, and then we would probably replace the barrier wall to keep them off of this. And so 2 advantages in that. For one thing, it would get them on basically fresh bedding that has kind of, its maximum absorption capacity to utilize for the next 11 days while we finish production here. And it would let this floor rest, and we would leave it as is, let this floor rest, because then about June 13th, we're going to be bringing 425 birds into this building. So we'll actually want to put 200 some birds right here where we are at with this group of birds now, and we'll want to put 200 some birds over there where we're talking about moving these birds to. So if we let this rest, it will be prepared for a group of birds, and if we utilize that now, it will benefit this group of birds, and then plus it will also have time to rest before it actually would have time to rest before we would have to put new birds on it, because we could actually start all 400 of those birds here. All 425 could start over here, and then as they get bigger, we could split them into 2 groups. I'm going to look back in my notes, but we like to see if we're going to reuse a floor after a flock has already been on it. And when I say reuse a floor, I mean reuse the bedding that we had previously used on it with another flock. If we're going to reuse that, we want to see it have had an opportunity to sit for at least 21 days. So I'm going to double check my number in my notes though sometime, and we'll talk about that again. But anyway, we are considering that. We might move this group over, but they're really doing well. And we've got 11 more days to go, and 450 more pounds of feed to give them. They've consumed about 550 pounds of feed so far. So thanks for joining us at Twin Oaks Family Farm. What we're doing here is making real good chicken. It looks like a barn, but it's a food factory. And if you want to eat good chicken, this is where it comes from. It comes from real chickens raised with good management practices. So, some homes have swimming pools and golf, mini golf putt courses and tennis courses, and other homes like country homes have food factories and 4-wheeler trails. So we're in the latter group. But thanks y'all for joining us, and we sure hope that you're doing great, and we hope that you will try to source your food locally, wherever local is for you. Support your local farmers and producers, and raise and grow what food you can. If you don't have a garden, start a garden. Start small. Start with some plants that produce vegetables that you like, and just see how it goes. So, and if you're into raising your own meat and want to raise some livestock chickens, chickens are a good option. So thanks, y'all. God bless you.